Direct from our newsroom in Los Angeles, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in New York.
Good evening. In the crowded St. Peter's Square of Vatican City, an escaped killer from a Turkish prison today made good on his threat to shoot Pope John Paul II. As many as 5 shots were fired. The Pope was hit at least 3 times. 2 women bystanders were also wounded. Tonight, after lengthy and apparently successful surgery, doctors say they are well-founded hopes for the Pope's recovery. The gunman, identified as Mehmet Ali Aja, was immediately subdued. In Rome, here's Winston Burdett.
Square, Vatican City, 17 minutes past 5 o'clock. Pope John Paul II in his white Jeep greets the first of the thousands of men, women, and children who have gathered here for his weekly open-air audience. A familiar scene, a happy crowd, a majestic setting. The pistol shots that strike down the Pope are fired at a distance of less than 6 feet. The Jeep races down the open space between the wooden barriers with Vatican plainclothes police racing after it. 2 women were wounded. The Pope's assailant is seized, hurried away, and handed over to the Italian police. This is the man. He has told the Italian police that he is a Turkish citizen, 23 years old, that he has been in Italy only 7 days, that he came here on false documents as a university student, that he had tried to assassinate the Pope during the Pope's visit to Turkey, and that he had been sentenced to death in his own country for the terrorist assassination of a Turkish journalist. This is an old picture of a young man arrested by the Turkish police for his killing of a journalist.
The same individual is currently being sought by Turkish authorities and by Interpol. He is a well-known fugitive from Turkish justice, a terrorist who has been tried and convicted for the murder of a prominent Turkish journalist. Turkish police have been under instruction to shoot him on sight.
The black arrow shows where it happened today, in the lee of St. Peter's Basilica. A second young man is under arrest as a possible accomplice, but it seems more and more possible that the first man, the avowed terrorist assassin, acted on his own. At the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, a few moments after Pope John Paul was rushed there, he was fully conscious on entering the hospital. He remained on the operating table for more than 4 hours. The 2 bullets that pierced his intestinal tract have been successfully removed. The surgeons then concentrated on his colon to stop the hemorrhage. There were many lesions in the abdominal arteries. There were many blood transfusions. The Pope is now in the reanimation chamber as a precaution against post-operational complications. At this delicate juncture, there is and there can be no certain prognosis. Winston Burdett, CBS News, Rome.
One of the 2 women wounded in the attack on the Pope is an American, Ann Audrey of Buffalo, New York, and doctors say tonight that her life is in danger. Also wounded, Rose Hill of the nation of Jamaica. She was hit in the arm. In Washington, where only 6 weeks ago President Reagan was shot and wounded, official reaction to today's events in Rome was swift and strong. Leslie Stahl describes it.
Ironically, President Reagan met with some senators this morning to discuss ways to stem the increasing tide of violence, terrorism, and other forms of crime. After the White House learned of the shooting from news reports, the president sent a message to the Pope saying, "All Americans join me in hopes and prayers for your speedy recovery." And he telephoned Terence Cardinal Cook of New York to express his sorrow.
We spoke for a moment, too, about the attack, since he had experienced what he had experienced, and his, feeling that the Lord had spared him, and the hope that the Holy Father would be spared too to serve the people.
Vice President Bush asked rhetorically, what kind of madness has been let loose in the world? And he spoke of a worldwide sickness called international terror.
But to the degree terroristic actions internationally kind of condition society for this kind of thing, why it's unacceptable.
Why isn't gun control part of that?
I don't know. In Rome?
On Capitol Hill, the Senate paused for prayer and passed a resolution of concern.
I, as all people, are particularly touched by the senselessness of acts of violence. And I think the best that we can do is, at this time, is to pray for His Holiness and perhaps for ourselves.
In the House, business was suspended as congressmen got up to express their sadness.
I found him to be a man of true warmth, great intellect, and keen insight into the problems of the world. He is, in every sense, a man for all seasons, for all people.
Members of the President's cabinet and other dignitaries attended a special Mass for the Pope this evening at Washington St. Matthew's Cathedral. The comparison to Mr. Reagan's shooting was inescapable.
The coincidence of it adds to the eeriness of it. And I don't believe we're in a sick society. I just hope not. But having one on top of the other is a little difficult to take.
And late today, President Reagan released a statement asking all of us to heed Pope John Paul's call for a world of love, not of hate. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, Washington.
We'll have more on the shooting of the Pope in just a moment, and CBS News will present a special one-hour broadcast tonight at 8 o'clock, 7 Central Time.
Radio Shack shatters another computer price barrier with a $50 price cut on the TRS-80 personal pocket computer. Now only $199. The first completely portable computer that's fully programmable by you. And it's expandable. With low-cost options, you can make a library of your own programs or use our ready-to-run programs for business, education, and personal finance. The sale price TRS-80 personal pocket computer. Only at Radio Shack, the biggest name in little computers.
Boy, Art, I painted this last year and it's already faded and rusted.
Well, if you'd used Rust-Oleum, you'd be getting ready to putt, not paint. Right, honey? Mildred swears by Rust-Oleum.
Rust-Oleum Special Primer penetrates rust and drives out air and moisture. Then the Rust-Oleum top coat forms a weather-tough bond that resists fading and rusting.
Gotta go.
Can't let the old game get rusty, you know?
Skip work next year with Rust-Oleum this year.
Of all the expressions of outrage made by Americans today about the shooting of the Pope, one by the Archbishop of Boston, Cardinal Umberto Medeiros, perhaps sums it up for a lot of people. If this man, the Cardinal asked, so strong a force for goodness, justice, and peace is attacked, who then among us is safe? There was much more reaction all over this country, and Bob Faw has some of it.
In the country's largest Polish community, Chicago, there was shock and anger and grief.
I think he was such a wonderful person. Our world loved him.
Strengthen our Holy Father, Pope John Paul II. They prayed for him in the city's main cathedral. And they prayed for him across town in a smaller church where he had celebrated Mass during his 1979 visit, and where young worshipers today could not comprehend what had happened.
Why would anybody want to shoot him? I mean, he did nothing wrong to nobody. The Pope, that's like the nuns tell us, that's God's representative, and they shot at the Pope, and that's really not just at all.
Throughout the day, worried Polish Americans tried to get information and reassurance from the office of the country's largest Polish daily newspaper.
I think the fear is there that if the Pope can be shot, then no one is safe.
The fear of physical harm was even more acute for American relatives of the Pope.
Well, I was stunned. I was sort of knocked out in my system. Got the best of me.
And the country behaved much the same way. From east to west, people gathered in disbelief. A noon mass at St. Patrick's in New York offered prayers for John Paul II, which were repeated in Atlanta, along with prayers for those who attacked him. At the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, when the Pope had celebrated a Mass nearly 2 years ago, the scene and the sentiments were much the same. In Memphis, 250 priests, attending the National Federation of Priests Council, sought comfort and strength. And at St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco, the The usual midday Mass almost became an ecumenical service, as Catholic, Protestants, and Greek Orthodox tried to understand not just an act of violence, but also a climate which had produced it.
Other services and prayer vigils are now scheduled in Chicago and elsewhere by a community which feels not just that a symbol has been attacked, but a loved one as well. Bob Fall, CBS News, Chicago.
First word of the attempt on John Paul's life reached Poland, his homeland, as most people were returning from work or shopping for dinner. The bulletin on Warsaw Radio starting with the words, "We have sad news for you." And as that sad news spread, reports Bert Quint from Warsaw, all of Poland was thrown into a state of shock.
Many Poles burst into tears when they heard the news on the radio or crowded around television sets to watch pictures of the attempt to kill their beloved Pope. Routine church services and religious celebrations, daily events in this officially atheistic but overwhelmingly Roman Catholic country, turned immediately into meetings of prayer for the pontiff. The heads of the Communist Party and the government sent a message to John Paul with, as they put it, best wishes from his motherland for a fast recovery so that he can carry out his mission in the spirit of peace and the well-being of humanity. One man from whom news of the assassination attempt was being kept was 79-year-old Cardinal Wyszynski, the primate of Poland, whom the Pope refers to as his mentor. Only today, church officials here announced that the condition of the cardinal, long suffering from an intestinal ailment, had worsened. Through these difficult and dangerous months for Poland, the presence of a Pole on the throne of St. Peter has been a source of reassurance for the Polish people. They believe that John Paul has had an encouraging and yet at the same time moderating influence on events here, and that his moral authority acts as a deterrent to Soviet invasion. If his life is threatened, some Poles feel, so too is Poland. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
Who can count the millions of people John Paul has walked amongst in every corner of the globe, each one a potential instrument of personal harm? If it seems foolhardy to some, that's exactly how this Pope wants it. He wants no barriers between himself and the people. And one barrier in particular he never has appreciated is security, as we hear from David Culhane.
From the moment he took office, Pope John Paul II reached out to the people to bring with him to his high office the parish priest he had been, the pastor who touched hands, who hugged those he loved, who kissed their children with genuine warmth. He deplored the security that surrounded him and was quoted as saying that he did not want guards between himself and the people, that he could take care of himself. And indeed, time and time again, wherever he went in the world, there would be no one between him and the tens of thousands, sometimes millions, who waited for hours to see him. He said the world must find new ways to safeguard the security of every person, not just the Pope. And so he moved through the crowds at his deliberate, confident, unafraid pace, often disarming with his smile even those who oppose his views. His every appearance seemed festive, a folk celebration. The past remoteness of the Vatican fell away. In America, North and South, in Asia, in Africa, he seemed to say, "Let there be no barriers between us." He seemed to say, "I am a man of peace." He seemed to say, who would want to harm this pastor among his people? David Culhane, CBS News, New York. The state Senate of Connecticut yesterday defeated a bill to control handguns by a vote of 19 to 17. This afternoon, when members were told of the attempt on John Paul's life, the handgun bill was reconsidered and it passed, 18 to 17. That bill calls for a minimum 1-year sentence for anyone convicted of carrying a handgun without a permit.
The call of Schweppeffervescence, the curiously refreshing sound that signals that a drink is about to explode with taste. Schweppeffervescence makes Schweppes mixers a far cry from anything you've ever used to dignify a drink. It's why we unhumbly call Schweppes the taste maker. Tonic water, bitter lemon, club soda, ginger ale.
One of the most surprising secrets about oil of Olay is that it isn't greasy. But since feeling is believing, feel for yourself. Oil of Olay is like your skin's own natural fluids. That's why your skin drinks in every precious drop. Oil of Olay penetrates so quickly, you won't see a trace of greasiness. Not here, not even on this tissue.
Discover the secret of Oil of Olay. All it leaves behind is younger-looking skin.
The United States and the Soviet Union exchanged charges today over an incident that began late yesterday at Dulles International Airport outside Washington. The incident involved a Soviet airliner set to take off for Moscow and 3 crates of cargo. More on the story from Jim McManus at Dulles Airport.
After first informing the State Department, customs officials accompanied by FBI agents reportedly acting as observers boarded the Soviet jetliner. Customs agents seized packaged U.S. equipment that they suspected was defense-related and being flown out of the United States illegally. The Soviet airliner's departure was delayed about 4 hours, and later the official Soviet news agency TASS called the search an act of terrorism. The State Department denied Soviet charges that U.S. agents attacked the airliner's crew or that diplomatic immunity and international law were violated in the search and seizure operation.
Yes, the colorful terms used by TASS describing this action as a provocation or a terrorist act are absurd. We have been assured by Customs that the search operation was carried out in full conformity with U.S. and international laws.
Late today, a customs spokesman said 3 crates of electronics equipment, including radiation detection devices, are being checked to determine exactly what they are and whether they may be legally shipped to the Soviet Union.
The whole issue of the export of high technology items out of the United States to Iron Curtain countries is an ongoing and potentially serious problem.
The Soviet embassy in Washington produced documents they said proved the equipment had been cleared by U.S. Customs. An embassy spokesman denounced the airliner search as a criminal and barbarous act.
The fact that the U.S. government chose instead to stage this piratical attack testifies that it deliberately wanted to create a provocation with the clear aim of further spoiling the relations between our 2 countries.
There was no immediate response from the State Department, but earlier a White House spokesman said the affair had no connection with U.S. foreign policy. Jim McManus, CBS News, Washington.
26 Libyan diplomats are scheduled to leave Washington tonight, a week after the United States ordered them out of the country and Libya's embassy closed. The United States accused Libya of provocations and misconduct. Before departing, Libya's top diplomat took a parting shot at this country. Lee Thornton reports.
The packing was still underway at the Libyan mission, as Libya's chief diplomat was saying his country is now in the process of deciding whether to cut off oil sales to the U.S. At a news conference, Ali Ahmed Huderi appeared to be reacting to more than just the expulsion of the diplomats.
We've been very cooperative and very generous in the past. We did not get anything in return. We sent half of our oil to this country. They deny us the simplest thing. They deny us buying even small planes for agricultural purposes. They deny us buying trucks. They deny us buying almost everything we choose to buy, not to mention military equipment.
Although Libya is America's 3rd largest supplier of foreign oil, giving this country 11% of its imports, the Department of Energy and oil company sources say the U.S. wouldn't feel any pinch in the event of a cutoff now or later. They say unless the world market glut turns into a severe shortage, which they do not expect, the possible loss of Libyan oil would cause little or no hardship. The departing diplomats say Libya would rather keep its oil than sell it to a country it's not comfortable with. Lee Thornton, CBS News, Washington.
Japanese Imperial Army General Tomoyuki Yamashita was called the Tiger of Malaya during World War II for his lightning-swift capture of the Malayan Peninsula and Singapore. When American forces executed the general in the Philippines, there were rumors that he left behind a treasure of lost loot captured in Burma, Thailand, China, and other countries. Japanese officials denied the stories, but it's now come to light that Sunday, workers digging in an irrigation project of the southern Philippines have uncovered an estimated $2.9 million of gold antiques, believed to be the treasure of Yamashita. Officials said today that has touched off a gold rush, and government troops have sped to the area to prevent looting.
Coming May 21st, 82 Chevy Cavalier, the most complete new car Chevy's ever introduced. Complete from A to Z. AM radio with digital clock.
Bigger than Chevette. Smaller than Citation.
Choice of four. Sedan. Coupe. Hatchback. Wagon.
Defogger's rear and side. Economy. Front-wheel drive. Glass-belted radios.
Headroom. Interior room for four. J-Car stands for the latest GM technology. Knee room. Leg room. McPherson strut suspension.
New transverse mounted engine. Overdrive transmission. Power brakes.
Quality check from A to Z.
Reclining front seats.
Standard features 43.
Trunk room.
Unitized body.
Value. Wind tunnel tested.
Excellent car, unfortunately.
Yankee built.
Zinc pre-coated metals where you need them. 1982 Chevy Cavalier, the complete car. May 21st at your Chevy dealers.
The traditional prayer, "Rest in Peace," sounded hollow today over the casket of IRA hunger striker Francis Hughes. There was a virtual tug-of-war over the remains of Hughes, the second Irish guerrilla to die this month in Northern Ireland's Maze prison. Martha Teichner in Belfast has that story.
3 hours late, the body of IRA hunger striker Francis Hughes left the Belfast morgue amid hissing and boos from Protestant hecklers. The Belfast police had apparently refused to release the body to the Hughes family until they agreed it would be taken directly to their home in Balahi under heavy guard. On the way, something went wrong, an argument over the route. The police dragged the undertaker from the hearse. Francis Hughes' father was outraged.
But now they want to take the hearse over themselves. Well, that wouldn't sound great to see two police driving a hearse.
Francis Hughes' body was supposed to have been brought here, to West Belfast, where thousands of people had lined the streets to pay their respects. Finally, it was announced that the police had refused to allow the body to pass through Catholic areas of the city.
The family have said that the only custody their son is in is the custody of God, and that the RUC and the British government, having murdered him, have no right, in anyone's eyes, to seize that body.
The crowd reacted with anger, but dispersed peacefully. Surrounded by a convoy of police Land Rovers, Francis Hughes' body resumed its journey home. Outside his parents' house, the coffin was draped with the flag of Ireland. Hughes, once the most wanted man in Northern Ireland, called the Butcher of Balahi by the British, and the second IRA hunger striker to die, will be buried Friday. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Belfast.
The Reagan administration is reported to be considering at least one more change in Social Security benefits than it proposed officially yesterday. According to the Associated Press now, the administration is weighing the possibility of postponing a cost of living Social Security increase to recipients this July. If the increase were postponed for 3 months, it would cost the average recipient about $100 and save the government nearly $4 billion. In the proposals detailed yesterday, there is a provision for a cost of living postponement next year. The Federal Communications Commission today revoked permission for American Telephone and Telegraph to raise long-distance rates Thursday. The FCC said it wants the phone company to clarify figures submitted to support its request for the increase. And the stock market generally down today.
I've done a lot of painting in my time. It's my job. But most people don't paint any more than they have to. That's okay. Just remember, when you do, use a top-quality paint, like Pittsburgh Paint's Sunproof House Paint or Wallhide Interior Latex. See, to me, this is not just a can of paint. It's my reputation. And while it may not be your reputation, it is your home.
Pittsburgh Paint's Wall Hide on sale now at participating dealers.
Real old-fashioned coffee aroma.
Old-fashioned? Mom, this is new improved mellow roast.
New? But it smells just like the coffee my mother used to make.
That's because new mellow roast has more rich aroma than before and a new full-bodied taste.
But smooth tasting like my mother's.
You like new mellow roast, huh, Mom?
New for you, dear. For me, just plain old-fashioned delicious.
New Mellow Roast coffee and grain beverage, improved for even more old-fashioned coffee taste and aroma.
Late this evening, one of the surgeons who operated on John Paul spoke with reporters. The doctor said only one bullet was found in the Pope's body and that no damage to vital organs was found. He said John Paul does have a fever, but that normal recovery is expected. The doctor said the Pope is in good condition, like a healthy young boy, he said. To recall the events of this frightful day, it began in the sunshine of St. Peter's Square as Pope John Paul II stood waving from his Jeep to more than 10,000 people. Within seconds, as many as 5 shots rang out, fired, police say, by a Turkish terrorist who had vowed to kill the pontiff. The Pope was wounded at least 3 times. He collapsed in the arms of his aides as his Jeep sped away. What was called a terrible quiet fell over the crowd, and thousands knelt weeping as a voice over the loudspeakers asked them to pray. The Pope underwent more than 4 hours of surgery, the most serious to remove a bullet from his abdomen. He also was wounded in the right arm and left hand. The Pope, who will be 61 on Monday, was described tonight as having undergone, quote, successful surgery. A nurse quoted him as saying, "How could they have done this?" The gunman also hit 2 women. One of them, Ann Audrey of Buffalo, New York, was critically wounded. Police identify the gunman as 23-year-old Mehmet Ali Agca, the assassin of a Turkish newspaper editor. He escaped from a prison just before the Pope visited Turkey in 1979, leaving behind a note threatening the Pope's life. Shocked reaction came today from President Reagan and other world leaders. This most traveled of popes has been protected by police, soldiers, and his own bodyguard. Until today, the greatest threat to his safety seemed to come from love, as crowds broke through barricades. But one churchman said, "I have lived in terror of this moment for a long time." That's our report this Wednesday. Until tomorrow, Dan Rather, CBS News, Los Angeles. Good night.
Managing the Roman meal mill is not all a desk job. I am responsible for buying all the ingredients, including rye, bran, and hard red spring wheat. Quality control for Roman meal begins in the grain field and doesn't end until the loaf is on your table. I am very proud of Roman meal bread. People like it.
Quality ingredients and special people help make Roman meal bread light brown, tender textured, and delicious.
Ain't sun-kissed sweet? Well, its goodness can't be beat. It's so fresh and juicy, plump and heavenly. Ain't sun-kissed sweet? Don't you know that it's the best we grow? 'Cause we only stand the pick of the crop, for you don't you know?
Whether it's oranges, lemons, or grapefruit, you have our word on it.
Ain't sun-kissed sweet?
Direct from our newsroom in Los Angeles, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Bob Schieffer in New York. Tonight, Dan Rather anchors the shooting of John Paul II, a CBS News special report, tonight at 8, 7 Central and Mountain, here on CBS.